What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the B1KER Bar Podcast live stream. Here we are, episode 74. This is going to be interesting. Like I said in the description, this is a new, at least to me, company. We'll find out about how long they've been around, but this is Berd Spokes. They make spokes out of strings. But before we get started, it's your favorite part. It's whenever I try to talk you into joining my Patreon. Seriously, you guys on Patreon are the sponsor of this show. So if it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be nice new cameras or microphones or IPA in my fridge that I can't drink this month because apparently I'm trying to lose weight. So, but honestly, the guys on Patreon, it means a lot. And there's one spot you can do in there for $1 a month. It's like tipping your waitress that poured your beer. It's worth $1, right? So is listening to a podcast every week, at least in my opinion. And if you want a little more than that, $5 a month, get your sticker pack access and some extra content as well. That really helps out. It means a lot, dude. I've seen some of you guys recently all jumping on and signing up, and it really, really helps because for some reason, I don't know what happened with my YouTube account, but like the dump truck load of money that's supposed to get dropped off hasn't showed up yet. So until then, I'm relying on you guys to keep this thing going. And if you want some stuff for free, swing by my Instagram or my Facebook page. It's at B1KER. So that's pretty simple to get to. And there's free content there. So you can just do that and get a little taste of it. It'd be like taking a sip, just a little sip. And then you'll be like, you know what? I want a little bit more. And there you go. If you don't want to do either one of those, but you just want to support the channel a different way, you can swing by my shop at shop.biker.com, get a shirt, or look here. I got a patron shirt on right now. This is a patron shirt. Yeah. For those of you guys listening, it's really cool. For those of you guys that are looking at it, hopefully you like it too. But anyways, I'm about to update some stuff on there on the Patreon channel as well as the shop. So I'm just being a lazy webmaster lately. So one of these days I'll get around to it. Maybe next week I'll tell you about all the cool new stuff. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to bring Charlie up here, and there he is. What's up, Charlie?
Hey, thanks for having me, Robert.
Yeah, man. Super stoked to have you on. I was right in my intro that I wrote for the YouTube channel. I was like, I was out on the trail with one of my buddies, and he's like, "Oh, check out these new wheels that I got built." I was like, "Oh, right on. White spokes. Cool. I've seen that before. I've seen green spokes, blue spokes, I'm like, no biggie." And he didn't mention anything else about them at the time. And we were just riding. And then later he's like explaining them to somebody else. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, these are made out of string." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can it's like not rigid at all." "What are you talking about?" And he like pulled up some picture on his phone. I was like, "Whoa, that is crazy." I looked at your Instagram earlier, and it was like somebody doing the wheel build, and it looks like a hub with spaghetti through it. So a little bit about you before we get into all the meat and potatoes. Like, how'd you get into riding bikes, man?
Yeah, well, I got into riding bikes during college. I started road biking and then did a lot of mountain biking in grad school. I lived out in Pennsylvania, State College, cool. Pennsylvania. It's a great place for mountain biking.
Yeah, I'm actually from York, Pennsylvania. So
okay, yeah. So you know the area. It's that's where I learned to mountain bike and really got into it. So
yeah, super rocky over there.
What's that? It's super rocky.
Yeah.
It's a lot different back here in Minnesota.
Yeah,
that's where we're located here.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you got started over there. So where along the line did you go from being a bike rider to somebody that wanted to start their own bike related company?
Well, I'm a chemical engineer by training and background in material science, and that that helped me get interested in coming up with this idea for the spokes. And me and a couple of buddies of mine started this company back in 2015. And
wow, so you've been around for a while then.
Yeah, but we didn't really start selling anything until 2018, and so that's when the company really got off the ground, and we started selling our product, and so now it's been about 3 years since we've been on the market.
Right on. So What is a chemical engineer? I don't even know what that means. I used to work for an engineering company, and they did like water engineering, and now I work for a software engineering company where they're like making code for controlling robots, but I don't know what a chemical engineer does.
A chemical engineer takes takes chemicals in their basic form and transforms them into something useful. So a lot of what chemical engineers do is you're taking some petroleum byproduct, right, and converting it into the everyday products you use, converting it into plastics, making it, making something that's ultimately going to, better people's lives. And yeah.
So how did this idea like come to like fruition? Like at what point are you like, something's wrong with spokes? How can we make this better?
Yeah, well, as a rider myself, I recognize the benefit of having lightweight components on your bike, right? And just about everything on the bike has been transformed over the last 100 years. You think about Tour de France bikes 100 years ago, everything was made out of steel. You had steel frames, steel handlebars, steel rims, steel spokes, everything. And then, since then, carbon fiber has replaced frames and rims and seat posts, all of those things. But the exception was spokes. Spokes have essentially remained the same over the last 100 years. And so our idea came from rock climbing and from slacklining, where you're taking lightweight, high performance materials, and the material we use in the spokes is called ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. People would recognize it by the name Dyneema.
I like it the long way better. That just sounds like
it's a little bit of a mouthful, or you can call it, if that's too hard, you can call it UHMWPE.
Yeah, no, I like the long way. That sounds like a perfect hashtag. You just put it on all your pictures.
Yeah, right. I'm sure people know what that means. But we recognize that this is an amazing material, and spokes have the technology is just is ancient technology for spokes, and we have the ability to use this material as a spoke.
So I'm not like a super techie kind of bike guy. I'm kind of like a gorilla. I just like get on the bike and pedal. That's what I do. So spokes being rigid, I don't really think has anything to do with how they work, right? It has more to like it's really the strength of pulling the wheel, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's confusing, and the exception is an old wooden wagon wheel. Now, in that case, the spokes do need to be rigid, but when you're talking about bicycle wheels, all of the spokes are in tension, and so the spokes are always in tension, and they never go out of tension. And so it doesn't matter if if it's flexible when it's not in the wheel, like our spokes are, or if it's rigid. Once you have it in a wheel under tension, it they act just the same as a steel spoke would. So our spokes, of course, you can tie them in a knot if you'd like to, but once you got them in a wheel, they act just the same.
How is like, are you guys like the first company to make this kind of thing, or did maybe like somebody do this in the 50s before or something like that and it just didn't catch on? Or
well, we're the first company to make a lightweight, flexible spoke that interfaces with standard components. And so the wheels that you saw a month ago, Richard's wheels, right, those use stock hubs, stock rims. Spokes interface with those, but there's been other companies, and so Spinergy, for example, they've had a flexible spoke made out of a different material, PBO. It only works with proprietary components, and it's a much bigger diameter spoke because they've got to put a coating on it. It doesn't stand up to UV light.
There was something too, like wasn't it like the early 90s, like the wheel looked like a spider web almost, and they had like plastic discs on the outside.
Yeah,
I don't know if those were rigid or not.
Tioga disc wheel is another one that was out there at one point. I think, and they use something more similar to Kevlar than our material. So there's been a couple other people that have tried it, but never a company like us where the spokes work with standard components, and that's what's to be successful and grow the business, because people want to ride their NV wheels, or they want to ride their DT Swiss or Industry 9 hubs, and that's what we work with.
Yeah. Totally. No, it totally makes sense. So, like, building them, does somebody that's like building with these, like, is there anything different that they would do or have to like take a class or watch a YouTube video on, or it's
Yeah.
basically like the same way or what?
Yeah, well, we got lots of YouTube videos, and so that any wheel builder who likes to build wheels can build with our spokes, and we've got shops all over the country, all over the world, building with our spokes. It's not that hard if you want to learn how to do it. It just takes a little bit of time to get good at it. So just like anything else, there's a learning curve, and once you learn how, it's not that much different than building with regular spokes. And the lacing process, like you said, looks like spaghetti when you're lacing a hub.
Yeah.
The lacing process for putting a hub together is different than steel. But then once you've got the spokes into the rim, it's just the same process of truing a wheel with our
Yeah,
spokes.
because I would imagine you don't have to worry about like how because when the spokes are rigid, like you have to pull them through the eyelets in a certain manner so that you can get your crosses or whatever. But when it's flexible like that, then you can just go one at a time, right? And then you just weave it through whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't run into issues where you can't get the spokes twisted around each other because you don't have to worry about that.
So how does the material? Because so there has to be some kind of nipple, and then there's something that you're going through your rim with that is, I assume, like threaded or something like that, like a regular like nipple for a spoke. Is that accurate or?
Yeah. So the big innovation on our spokes, right? So we didn't invent the material that's used in these. That's invented by bigger company who mass produces this.
Yeah, somebody like DuPont or something like that, right?
Yeah. So what we invented was the connection to a steel threaded rod on the end of it.
That's
So
what I was going to ask. How you do that then, huh?
Yeah. So that what's on the end of the spokes is just a standard 14 gauge thread, 2 millimeter spoke thread. It works with normal nipples. And the way that's connected to the fibers, because the fibers are hollow braid, and that rod goes inside of that braid. And when you pull on it, it acts like a Chinese finger trap. And so the harder you pull, the stronger that connection is, and it's that frictional force that holds that on. And so we have a process to make this. It's a proprietary process that we bond that to the end of the spoke. But the reason it works so well is because it's not relying on an adhesive. It's actually relying on that physical force of those fibers just cinching onto the end of that rod. And so so that was our key innovation. We've got a patent for that, a U.S. patent, worldwide patent that covers that innovation. That's really what makes the whole product work, is that connection.
That's what makes it unique then.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I like the little Chinese finger idea, and like as well. I'm sure it's more intricate than that, but it totally makes sense to me as a layman.
It's not made in China, right? So we make all of the spokes here, and so maybe that's not the best.
The idea of how it works, like everybody's played with one of those as a kid, so it's like, oh yeah, the harder you pull, the more it's stuck,
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. You guys are so are you manufacturing there in Minnesota, or you got some plan, or like how does that work out?
Yeah, we do all the manufacturing here in Hopkins, Minnesota. And we've developed our own proprietary manufacturing equipment. That's also a big part of our company, is that we've developed this equipment to be able to produce these economically here in Minnesota, which is great thing, I think, about the product.
Yeah. So are these so when you're getting the spokes, does it just come like on like a spool of like thread, like a mile long or whatever, and you're just like cut out lengths, and then somehow your machine puts into the metal pieces? Or
so I'll probably just let your imagination run on that one.
Okay.
So we've got
that's the secret sauce.
Some equipment that you've never seen before, and I think that you won't be able to guess what it is, but if I told you, then it wouldn't be proprietary.
Yeah, okay, it totally makes sense, man. You got to keep. I'm just inquisitive, so I'm like, what the heck? So we're gonna go ahead and make the assumption that these are lighter than regular spokes, then.
Yeah, so they're half the weight of the lightest steel spokes. So not that everybody knows what spokes on their bike are on their bike, but if you take like a Sapum CX Ray or a DT Revolution, they're a little less than half the weight of those spokes. They're about 25% of the weight of a standard metal spoke.
Mm-hmm. So you're saving, when I saw on your website, I think you said, or it was stated that there was about a half a pound difference. So that was for both wheels or per wheel?
Yeah, that would be for a set of wheels.
For a
Yeah.
set. So,
So
I
like,
mean, that's a huge difference though in rotational force.
yeah, 64 spoke set of wheels with, average spokes, it would be about a half a pound.
Mm-hmm. So is it easier then to replace if you like blow one, or like the
Yeah,
same process, or?
well, in a lot of ways it's easier. You can replace it without taking off like a disc rotor, for example,
Uh-huh.
because you could actually weave it in there where you wouldn't be able to do that with a steel spoke.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
it's definitely pretty rare to have to replace a spoke, but
Mm-hmm.
they're not totally indestructible.
Right.
But it is rare. But if you needed to, you definitely can do that.
So does it have some kind of like, does it give at all? Like, so like when I've broken spokes, most of the time I've broken spokes, I've been in like a super techie spot. I lean my bike to one direction and, all of a sudden it's like, ting, and it's like, oh, that rock just pushed that spoke until it didn't hang no more, like, because this is fiber, does it kind of like just rip some of the strands, but not totally fail, or?
Well, the spokes they're a little bit they have a little bit more elasticity than steel.
Mm-hmm.
They're similar to like the thinnest gauge steel spokes. But actually, what people notice, the big thing people notice when riding, I don't know if Richard commented on this when you saw him on the trails the other day, but is the vibration damping of the
Yes,
spoke.
he did talk to me about that.
That's the big unique property. You take a steel spoke wheel and you pluck a spoke and it rings really nicely
Mm-hmm.
because steel spokes, they transmit vibrations up and down the wheel, from the trail all the way up into your handlebars. But
Mm-hmm.
because of the material, it doesn't transmit vibrations, like steel, and that it makes for a really smooth ride. And so we measure that here, but that's what we hear most often from our customers is that's what people really notice when they're riding it.
Yeah, Richard mentioned on the ride that we were on, he's like, man, and these things like really kind of dampen the ride. And he was riding a shorter travel bike than I was, and we were in some pretty janky stuff. And he was like, dude, it just makes me feel like almost like I have more suspension.
Yeah,
So
cool.
that's,
Yeah.
I mean, I was really impressed by like what he had to say about him once I learned that the spokes were, what they were.
Yeah.
At first it was just like, oh yeah, okay, cool. You like did new decals on your bike and you got white spokes, big BFD, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't like really impressed at that point. But then once he like showed me the picture or whatever, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I would love to talk to this guy. So
Yeah.
so somebody asked up here, do they need truing? I mean, do they fall out of true faster or slower, about the same? I mean, I would assume the truing that's really just the nipple that's kind of coming loose over time, right?
Well, you could need a true reel for a lot of reasons. Like if you're on aluminum rim, for example, you dented your rim and then your wheel will go out of true. That's
Yeah,
not an option with carbon anymore. But
right.
but the simple answer is no. So you don't need to true them over time, unless rare circumstances. And when we did a lot of testing early on with big companies, and one of those tests is a drum test. And so a drum test, it simulates a really heavy rider on a bike. So it simulates like a 280-pound rider on a bike.
It simulates a Robert. Okay, I'm on it.
Okay, Robert. But then imagine, Robert, that you're hitting a pothole 6 times a second.
Oh, there you go.
If you're hitting a big pothole 6 times a second, and then you're doing that, for 10,000 kilometers. And
Oh, wow.
imagine, what you'd feel like after that. No, but so in that sort of testing where, we're simulating long-term riding, hitting bumps, the wheels, didn't go out of true, and whereas metal spokes typically would go out of true with that type of riding. So it isn't to say that you might need to true your wheels, but it's not part of the normal maintenance that you need.
So do you think that's because of the elasticity?
Having a true wheel has to do with the strength of the spokes. I mean, you could also kind of rephrase it as elasticity, but a metal spoke, for example, if you took a metal spoke wheel and you took a big hammer and you hit the side of the wheel and you dented the spoke, well, that spoke is going to be a little bit different than it was before.
Yeah, it's a little compromised.
Yes, and and it might be compromised, or maybe it's just a little bit shorter now because it's got that bend in it. And that's
Yeah.
going to pull the rim to the side a little bit. But if you
Mm-hmm.
take one of our wheels, hanging on the wall here that you can see behind me, and you hit it with a hammer, you're not going to dent the spoke, and so they're not going to permanently deform. Under some circumstances where steel spokes might permanently deform, they're going to go back to where they were before, and so that means you're not going to true it.
Mm-hmm.
If you get in a crash and you do somehow permanently deform one of our spokes, well, in that case, then you might need to true it.
Yeah, yeah. So how hard is it to cut that material? Like, can I cut it with a pair of scissors?
You can cut it with a good pair of scissors. Yeah.
Wow. So it's like really like that flexible then.
Yeah, you can actually cut a steel spoke with a good pair of scissors too.
Okay. Now I'm not amazed anymore.
when you have it in tension, but it's kind of interesting thinking of it that way, because it almost seems like, well, if I can cut it with a pair of scissors, maybe they're not that strong, but
once
you
you
don't
put attention on it,
scissors out on the trail.
yeah.
Or at least I hope you don't.
Right.
And so they really do hold up well on the trail.
Right. I mean, how long have people been riding these? You said 2018.
Well, the first set of wheels that were built were in mid 2015, and those are my wheels. They're on my mountain bike, and they're still on my mountain bike. So those are the oldest one, 5.5 years.
Have you ripped a spoke?
No, none of these spokes have broken. Yeah,
wow, that's pretty crazy. And then it has from that time till now, has your process of creating them or your materials or anything like that changed? I assume it's probably gotten better since then.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better. Yeah, early on with the first spokes we produced, we had some failures, like with the bond of the spoke early on. Then we did some things to change our manufacturing about 2 years ago, and we haven't had any issues, and so we're definitely producing spokes at a much higher level than they were produced for the first prototypes, which is what my wheels are there that are still on my bike.
So you have, and correct me if I'm wrong, please. I think you have white and black right now, right?
That's right. Yep.
So, how do you order those? Is it you order them individually? Like I could order, 31 blacks and 1 white, and that would.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like I said earlier, I'm not like I've only built 1 wheel, and my buddy that owns a hub company was trying to teach me how to do it. I did it for like 5 minutes, and I was like, this is something I never want to do with my life. And then he did the rest of it. And but if I remember correctly from things that I've heard people say, like when you are building a wheel, like you have to get like a certain length spoke depending on your hub and whatnot. So is that the same with yours, or do they adjust somehow because I don't know,
yeah, well, it's pretty much the same, and that's probably the hardest part of building a wheel, is just figuring out what spoke lengths you need to build with in the first place. But our spoke lengths are a little bit different than steel, so they're not the same. So if you're used to building wheels, and you always built with a 300 millimeter spoke on a set of wheels, you would be doing something just slightly different than that. And but we've got a spoke calculator on our website, so people can go on, calculate what spoke lengths they need with their hubs and rims, and it gives them the exact spoke lengths that they're using. Now,
so you just pick the rim on your calculator, like, hey, I have MV whatevers, and I got these Project 321s or these DT Swiss, and you guys would know, like, oh, okay, well, this is the length that you need.
Yeah. Actually, you would put in the measurement for the rim. So if you're building with a NV rim, you'd go on their website, you'd look at the ERD, you'd put that in our calculator, and
I assume that's something that normal wheel builder types would be like, oh yeah, I know what the ERD is.
Yeah.
Okay.
We modeled our calculator. It looks a lot like a DT Swiss calculator, for example. So people are used to using that. They would go.
Got it.
Yeah, and most of the time, though, it's bike shops. We love working with bike shops, and we've got a lot of retail partners all over the country, and so they're going to be the ones most of the time building wheels. Of course, there are some consumers out there, who might be watching this, who say, I love to build wheels. I want to give it a try, and that's
right.
Really an option too. So
how does that work if I don't know, somebody, or they go to a shop and a shop like wants to build your wheels, like do they just call you guys up and get whatever they need? Like it, I guess what I'm asking is like, how do they get the whatever training that they need to use that, or is there really no difference? It's just the spoke length.
Well, we've got an installation guide. So, we've got a 6-page PDF along with some videos.
That sounds so fun.
No, maybe it's not 6 pages. Actually, it's probably only 2 or 3.
It doesn't matter. I don't want to read more than a paragraph personally.
Yeah. So we've got a new program though too. It's called the Berd program, and so we're certifying wheel builders now. So people who are the best of the best, they can do our certification program, which includes, they've got to pass a test to show that they know how to build with Berd Spokes, and I think that's another great thing, just to get these people around the country who do it.
Well, I would imagine as a mechanic type person, like with any job, like if you have other certifications, you can put that on your resume, and it just, it looks better and good for you to have.
Yeah, and you get a cool T-shirt too. So.
There you go. Does that cost something for them to do that, or?
No, but it's it doesn't cost anything for them to do it, but it is selective. So they've got to be, they've got to prove that they're the best to become part of it.
How do they do that?
Well, they got to pass the test, and also they've got to have a BBI spoke lacing certificate. So the Barnett Bicycle Institute has has courses to, so that they have a lot of different courses, but typically for building wheels.
So if you pass that course, however you take that course, then you get a certificate.
Yeah.
And then so you guys want to see that they at least have that before you can get in the Berd.
That's a good prerequisite. I think.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, definitely.
So where do you guys come up with the name Berd from?
Bike nerd.
Bike nerd. There you go. Yeah. That's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You got a little bird in the logo. How'd you guys come up with the logo?
Yeah, we wanted something that kind of emulated, birds as well as the BERD, but just because that's we think that, well, obviously birds are lightweight, it kind of fits the same design. So so we had someone more creative than myself come up with some ideas for us and help us.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So somebody on here is asking, same tension as regular spokes or higher tension, or?
Yeah, same tension. We recommend building with our spokes on just about every rim to 100 kilograms or 1,000 newtons, the same as metal spokes. But we've done a lot of testing around tension too, and our spokes can handle lower tensions than metal spokes, and so you don't really have to worry about it. It's tension doesn't play a big factor in the performance of wheels. You can have a little bit higher, a little bit lower tension, and you'll still get the same performance out of the wheels.
So
it's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. I was just thinking to myself, like, on an aluminum rim, would that compress at all? Like if you hit something big, would your spokes kind of slacken up and then?
Yeah, well, all spokes will. So if you hit something big, and you've got enough force to offset the force that the tension, the tension that the spokes are on, then they will go out of tension. We have a cool video of that on our Instagram. Plug for our Instagram. You should
totally
follow at Berd Spokes if you don't already.
Right.
We've got a cool video showing our impact testing. And what we do for impact testing is we take a big weight and we drop it on the rims, and then you can actually see it's in slow mo, and you can see the spokes go out of tension, then go back into tension again. In that case, it didn't break the rim, but we'll do it all the way up to breaking the rims intentionally.
How much weight does it take to do that?
Well, it's really more about about energy. So it's about the impact energy, because you could take a little weight and
just throw it really fast like a bullet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Drop tower. So you use like gravity to do the work and let it drop on the rims, but you could take a little weight and drop it from a high height or a big one.
Yeah.
Low height. So it's an energy. And so, and of course, this doesn't mean anything to anyone, but the UCI impact criteria for a rim is 40 joules of energy. And but we'll test rims all the way up to 160 joules or so before they fail in some cases. And it's like a real big guy going off a much bigger drop than he should be, and
right.
It's really a lot of impact.
Yeah.
And because in this, when you see this video, it's everything is fixed, right? So the rim is it's held in place, and the wave's just falling down and crashing on the rim, which is a lot different than what you encounter in riding, where you get to give a lot because you're on your bike. You're not,
totally.
So
the main reason I asked that was because on a metal spoke, like the more you bend metal, the less like it only has so many bends to it before it's not bending anymore. You know what I mean? So like you lose strength in that metal spoke every time that happens. Is that accurate?
Yep, it is. Yeah, steel, when steel goes completely unloaded, so it goes totally out of tension,
right?
Tension, the back end of tension, and especially on a J-bend spoke, where you've got that spoke bending, right, where it comes out of the hub. That's where they'll fail. And it's because of that cyclic loading where it's bending back and forth every time.
Yeah, it's like when you're trying to break something, and you just like a hanger, and you just bend it over and over and over again, and eventually it snaps, right? So that's basically like kind of what's happening on your rims then, essentially. So so the likelihood of your rim, your spokes breaking is much lower in that instance.
Right.
So what about I mean, I guess you'd have to drag the hell out of them on some rocks before you like cut through it,
Yeah, but no, you can, I mean, people have had failures from, from getting a derailleur hanger going into the spokes. There's times when our spokes break, they're not indestructible. No spoke is going to be indestructible, but but it is rare. So
with carbon wheels now too, man, you could break a handful of spokes before you're actually in trouble.
Yeah,
I mean, not to say that I've ridden a bike with 2 spokes missing for a month or two, but I did.
Yeah.
So, but that's definitely the carbon is like so much more rigid than the aluminum are. You take a couple spokes out of aluminum wheels, and they're losing their rigidity pretty quickly. I saw a video with a guy like whenever I was first thinking about carbon, and it was like they had a carbon hoop in one hand and an aluminum hoop in the other, and they kind of like were using them to hold themselves off the ground, and like the aluminum one just buckles like instantly. Like the carbon one, the guy actually could hold his like weight up. The aluminum one is like it's 100% like using that spoke strength to give it its rigidity.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. When I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm not really tripping about this carbon wheel thing anymore. That like when carbon first started coming on market, everybody was like, I don't trust this stuff. I'm sure you're running into the same thing because it's like, a new thing, right?
Yeah. And carbon, we do a lot of testing with carbon rims here that we use on our wheels. Some of these wheels you can see behind me are some of our Berd branded wheels. And even when we intentionally break them, they're still round for the most part. You would you'd probably want to get off your bike and see what the heck's going on, but it's a pretty amazing material for the rims too.
Yeah, I just recently I had another one of those questions, where somebody has trying to like make sense of whether or not they should buy a carbon bike over an aluminum bike. And it just amazes me that like the apprehension to it, because in so many different ways, at least in my eyes, it's like a way better material. It just makes sense, and I think that, do you think it was probably from like the original carbon that maybe it had more failures, so people were just worried about it? What do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I think the fact that carbon can crack just makes it seem like it, instead of denting, it cracks. I think that's what makes it seem like it's maybe not as strong.
Yeah, but if you dent a bike, that's the same as a crack. Like the aluminum is weaker there then.
Yeah, if you're going to crack a carbon frame or whatever it is, your aluminum frame is going to be toast before then. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I always tell people too. And they're just, I don't know. To me, I'm a bigger dude. I mean, right now I've lost some weight. I'm at, right around 260, and like the frame not flexing is huge. Like I can tell that like immediately, you know what I mean? The way that just on sitting on the bike and the way that I'm like pushing down on the pedals, you can watch the bottom bracket sway on an aluminum bike. And maybe there's some reasons that you want that, but for me, at least the way that I ride, I don't want that,
Yeah. Well, you probably shouldn't push me too much on products other than mine, because then I start.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally, man. We're just talking about bikes though. So
I know.
So you guys have your own wheels then as well, huh?
Yeah. Yep. And so, what we found is that, we really want to get our product out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, so you asked about how does a bicycle shop build with our spokes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do? They get some components in, they measure the components, they give us a call or send us an email, they place an order with us, or maybe they place an order with BTI, who distributes our spokes.
Mm-hmm.
They get something in hand, they build a wheel. It's kind of a long process for a bike to do that. And a consumer, for just selling spokes, it's a long process for a consumer to get some wheels with Berd spokes. Well, that's why we knew that we had to build Berd wheels too, so that we can have bike shops stock our product, so that if you want to go out and ride, you can order a set of our wheels that we have here in stock, or can make very quickly. And so so we offer a few different wheel sets right now for gravel and for mountain biking.
Oh, cool. So gravel and mountain biking. And I think when I was looking at mountain biking, you kind of had like an XC wheel and an all mountain, kind of like a little beefier one, right?
Yeah. We've got our XC25, which is the lightest set that we sell, and the TR27, more of an all mountain set, and more durable for big guys. Yeah.
How did you go about making this wheel? Did you develop your own, or are you like rebranding some from some company that kind of makes them, or I don't know how that works?
Yeah, well, we went through a process to decide what manufacturer we were going to work with to produce our rims. And of course, we don't produce our rims here,
right?
Those are made overseas, and so we went through our process to develop wheels by through impact testing and torque fatigue testing, to develop something that's going to be the to match with our spokes in terms of weight, to make something as light as possible that's going to be a super durable wheel. And so that's what we did.
Yeah, totally. So God, I had the most amazing question, and then don't you love it when that happens?
Yeah.
So God, I can't come up with it. It's just gone. I was hoping that it was like, here it comes. Nope, it's not coming anywhere. Yeah. I did have a question earlier that I saw on the screen. It was one that I thought myself as well. I'm like a matchy kind of bling guy. Is there a reason that there's only black and white? Or are you planning on more colors in the future? Or
yeah, definitely more colors are possible. So our black spokes are coated. So we produce white spokes, and they're coated black. Material itself, is white.
Oh, okay.
Carbon fiber is black. This material is white, and so that's why we make white spokes and black spokes. And it's definitely possible to do other colors, and that may be something available from us down the line. It's also something a customer could do themselves if they were really interested in a different color.
You just spray paint them or something like that, rattle can them.
well, and you could, and they're pretty robust in terms of spraying things on them. It's not really going to cause any issue to them, but actually a good material if people wanted to do it themselves is alcohol-based inks. And so it's basically the ink that you would find in a Sharpie. you know, it
Oh, wow.
does a pretty good job, you know, coloring the spokes a different color. You know,
So you just like have a jar of that and just drop all the spokes in there and just let it sit in it for a while.
yeah, yeah. You could dip coat them. Yeah, that's what I would call it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just put it in there and shake it up and it's good to go. Right.
yeah.
So if you were to do so, I guess with the black ones as well, it's the same question. So that color then is like through all the fibers. So you're not going to nick it and then it's going to be white, or would it, if you nick it, it is going to be white?
Well, it's a coating on the fibers, and so
Uh-huh.
the spoke is actually made of thousands of tiny fibers, you know, smaller than your hair, and they're
Yeah,
all
that's kind of what I was thinking. It's
together.
like, yeah.
And so the coating, when we produce spokes with our black coating, the coating is actually, you know, it's not inside the fibers themselves, but it's inside all the little, you know, pieces in between all of these fibers, which does
Right.
hold in place pretty well. And if you know, if you sit there and you know, you're really rubbing on the spokes a lot, you know, you're scraping and rubbing, you'll get, you know, the black will turn into a little bit less black over time.
Yeah.
But you know, actually, spokes don't get much wear and tear practically,
Right.
and it's, you know, really not an issue.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that's like normal. You know what I mean? But I mean, I know if I looked at my wheels, there's probably a few spots on my spokes where they're like shiny
Yeah,
you know, whatever black paint that's on there, anodize or whatever they do on the spokes. But
yeah. Well, you know, if you're really into touching up your bike, you know, you probably know that you can, you know, things that are black, they're easy to make look black again, right?
yeah, right.
So
Yeah, I just cover mine in mud and then I never have to see any of it. And then when I
yeah,
wash my bike, I'm
well,
like, oh crap, there's scratches everywhere.
you should be going so fast that, you know, that nobody would ever notice, anyways.
Right on, man. What kind of bike do you ride, dude?
Well, yeah. Well, so since it's winter and I'm in Minnesota, I did just get a brand new Otso Wojtek,
Uh-huh.
which is a awesome fat bike. And I know that, you know, you're in California, so you probably never even seen a fat bike before.
No, there's actually a bunch because I'm pretty close to Tahoe. So I have some
Okay.
friends that live up that way and they fat bike all winter. And
Yeah.
then because he was telling me, my one buddy, he's like, there's a bunch of like snowmobile trails. So then it's like as soon as snowmobile guys go through, then they can just ride right on top of their tracks.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun for, you know, 3 months out of the year that you can do it here in Minnesota, and probably similar in Tahoe. I just started this year, so it's pretty great. And in the summer, I've got a track hardtail that I, you know, rip around the trails around here.
Uh-huh.
And but it's a kind of an ancient bike in terms of mountain bike technology right now.
Yeah. Hey man, if you have something that works, there's no reason to stop using
Yeah.
it, right?
Well, you know, and it's got the oldest Berd wheels on it that wouldn't be compatible with today's hubs, you know, today's
Yeah.
screw axles. So it's fun to keep riding that one.
Is that an old 26-inch wheel?
No, it's 29, but
Oh, there
it,
you go.
you know, it's got disc brake rotors, but it's got quick release, and so it's 100 millimeter front,
Yeah, I got it.
quick release.
Yeah, I got a set of wheels hanging from my garage in here that are like the quick release on the rear, and the front's a lefty hub too. I'm like, try to find somebody to buy those in 26 at that. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen. I'm gonna have to figure out some kind of like art to make out of them or something.
Yeah. Well, you can keep the rims, get new hubs, and rebuild them with Berd Spokes.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Yeah, and they're white rims too, so it would work out just perfectly.
Yeah.
So one of the guys is asking here in the comments about rock nicks. He says he's in Arizona and they're always kicking up all kinds of sharp rocks.
Yeah. Usually kicking up rocks into the spoke isn't an issue, you know. So if you're hitting rocks that are flying up, you know, because they don't have a lot of, you know, weight against them, because they're not sitting on the ground, it's not an issue. You know, if you're crashing into things that are, you know, a fixed permanent sharp rock on the trail,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's possible that could cause damage, but usually things flying up into the spokes doesn't cause a problem.
Mm-hmm. So if you had these, let's just say you had some Berd wheels and you broke a spoke, you could just go to the bike shop. The bike shop would call you guys, get a spoke sent to them, whatever, and they'd be able to figure it out from there. It wouldn't be really any kind of difficult process to get it.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah. The nice thing too is that BTI, so that BTI is a distributor that most bicycle shops buy from. You know, they've got them in stock too. And so, you know, if you need to get it right away, chances are, you know, they're going to be able to ship a little bit faster than we would in a shop. And they've already got an account with them.
So what kind of warranty is there with them? Like, I don't know. I would imagine regular spokes don't have a warranty either. So I don't know if there's any kind of warranty with yours.
Well, we have a 5-year warranty against manufacturing defects.
So like if the material ripped off the nipple thingy or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep. And so we've over designed that now so that is never designed to fail. You know, that's not the weak point of the spoke, that bond between the steel and the polymer. You know, but if that ever failed, that would certainly be covered under warranty. Yeah, you know, but there's really not, you know, if you got in a crash or something, you know, and you broke a rim, the thing is you can actually rebuild with the same spokes. And so
yeah, that makes sense.
Like a metal spoke wheel, right? If you crash the rim, you're going to bend the spokes and you're going to want to build with two spokes.
Yeah.
But when we do, you know, we were talking about impact testing. When we do impact testing, we'll crash a rim, unlace the hub from the rim, we'll put a new rim on, you know, crash it again, you know, intentionally break the rim, and just do that over and over and over. So that is a cool thing. And it's really the nice thing about spokes is you're never gonna, you know, even if you did crash, there's no way you're gonna break them all, right?
Right.
So if you had to replace a spoke, it's not any big cost. You know, it's a lot different than breaking a rim or a hub.
That's a good point there. I mean, because you get a new set of wheels, it's like, I don't know, what are spokes normally, like $1, $2 a piece?
Yeah, it depends what you buy. You know, like high end spokes like Savum CX Rays might be $3 or $4.
Okay,
but you know, cheaper spokes are $1.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like I said, dude, I just go, I'm like, here's my carbon rim, build this so that it supports my fat ass. You know, so like I whatever it costs, dude, I'll pay that, you know. So let's just say on the high end, so it's $4 a spoke. What do your spokes run?
$8 a spoke.
Really? So a little bit more then.
Yeah. And so, you know, you're building a high end wheel, and the set of spokes costs $500. But you know, that's half the price of an NV rim, for example. You know, it's half the price of one NV rim, or you know, it's less than a set of hubs. And so you think about the savings that you're getting, the performance that you're getting, you compare it to the rims and the hubs.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of things that people spend a lot more money on to lose a half a pound on their bike.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you know, and it might not be rotational weight either. So
yeah, and I mean, I like, to me, I thought about it like in the weight savings aspect. Like I was like, oh well, I really love running Cushcore, and they add weight to the wheel. But if you could take some weight off with your spokes, I'm like, well, now I can get still a lighter wheel, and have my Cushcore in it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of those things I was thinking about. What about your wheels themselves? What kind of warranty do you have on those? Because a lot of the manufacturers now are doing kind of like a lifetime replacement type of deal.
Yeah, we're doing the same things, a 5-year warranty on the rims and the hubs, and all of our Berd wheels are built, or I'm sorry, on the rims and the spokes, and all of our Berd wheels are built with Industry 9 hubs, which also have the Industry 9 hub warranty.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But so 5 years on the rim itself, then.
Yeah,
right on. And then that's still decent. So what's the set of your like all mountain wheels cost then?
They're $1,895.
So under $2,000 for a set of carbon wheels. What's the inner diameter on your mountain bike wheels?
So the TR27s, that's a 27 millimeter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
makes sense. And then that's the that's the XC then.
That's the all mountain set, and then the XC set is a 25.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Do you have plans to go a little bit on the wider side? Because it seems to be the kind of the trend of the market.
Yeah, we do. So we have a new wheel set, 30 millimeter internal that's coming out this year.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
You excited about that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So we've got that. And then we've also got a road set coming out too. So right now we just have gravel, which is a hookless bead, not meant for high pressures, but we've got a road set that's great for climbing or road and gravel, combined.
What does that mean, hookless bead? Like I said, I'm not like a super techie person.
The rims have traditionally rims have a hook on them to hold the tire.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're saying then. Okay.
The tire, pops down
Yeah.
into there, and that's required if you want to have rims that can stand high pressures.
So the road wheels are that way. Okay, that makes sense.
Road wheels. But the trend has been, going to wider rims, lower pressures, and tubeless, of course, and mountain bike rims. They don't have a hook anymore. And then some road rims that are wider now will have like a mid hook where it's designed to go up to 60 or 90 psi, and then then a more of a full hook would be to hold the tire on, so you can go up to 120 psi on the road.
Mm-hmm. What about the gravel ones? Are those like tubeless ready, or are they?
Yeah, yep. So the gravel, they're hookless bead, they're tubeless ready. They're designed for low pressures, and because you're putting on wider tires and riding gravel.
Yeah. I have a gravel bike as well, and I definitely I need to put my wire tires back on. I had like a set of slicks that I used to like ride road with them, and then I just switch them back and forth, And the last time I put the slicks on, I'm like, I don't feel like changing those anymore. So, I haven't been riding much dirt on the gravel bike, just road stuff. So, it is what it is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably the next bike I need to get. I need to get a gravel bike.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said you used to be a roadie, so it's like barely a step away from that, right?
Yeah.
But it is cool though. I think that it's cool to have that ability to kind of like pop off onto a trail, and obviously not something super techy, but it's definitely. Have you ridden one before?
A gravel bike?
Yeah.
I guess I would say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really weird riding on a dirt trail and having your brakes down in the hooks. Every time that I've done it, my mind is like, oh crap, where do I pull the brakes at? Because most of the time I'm riding that with my hands like in mountain bike position, right? I don't get down into the drops very much,
Yeah.
Maybe on account of my beer belly. That's probably what's stopping me. But no, but like realistically, I just don't ride down there. So like,
yeah,
the braking is definitely, I mean, obviously, you can have your hands up in the hooks, but it's just really weird for me when I'm on the trail on that bike. Like I have to like wrap my head around it,
Yeah, it feels a lot like cyclocross riding.
Yeah, definitely. And I even considered like, what if I just got some like hipstery looking kind of handlebars instead? Because like I said, I like never get down in the drops. I just not like, I don't care about it that much. Like I'm not like super aero kind of guy. Like if I was, like maybe I would lose more weight, but like realistically, like I still ride in my mountain bike clothes when I'm road riding. I don't even give a shit, like I'm just not one of those like spandexy kind of persons, but whatever. So you guys have been at it now this will be going into your 6th year. Is there anything that you look back on that you like wish you would have done differently?
No, not really. I mean, I think that I made the switch to full time at this company at about the right time. I did that 3 years ago, and definitely haven't looked back since. We've really been growing quickly since then. I suppose maybe even trying to make that switch sooner, so that we just would have gotten started a little sooner would have been awesome. But I'm really happy with the way we're growing as a company. It's been really, really fun over the last few years.
So you said originally it was like you and a couple of your buddies, or like how many people are you? How many people are Berd now?
Yeah, so there's 7 of us now at Berd, and we just had a new person come on to do all of our customer service, which
Right on.
is great, and which means I'll be doing less of that. So
Yeah.
In the past, I'd be the one answering the phone most of the time here, but that's not the case. Although anyone wants to call and talk to me tomorrow, just feel free to give us a call and ask for Charlie. You can talk, but still, but yeah, there's 7 of us now, combined throughout the company.
So how you said it was three of you guys originally?
Yeah.
How'd you guys get to know each other?
We all knew each other in college, so we're all buddies at the University of Minnesota, where we all did our undergrad, and we continued to see each other through our yearly ski trips.
There you go.
Out west, and we did a little biking together too. Still, when after I moved out to Pennsylvania for grad school, and they kind of did their separate things, but that's how we sort of maintained friendships. And now I'm back. Now we're all back in Minnesota, of course. I'm back here. I'm originally from Minnesota. So it's a pretty.
I know one of the subscribers that was on earlier. He's in that area, or he's in Minnesota. I mean, I'm saying it like it's a city. No, it's a state, guy. But I saw something in the comments that he was saying that he used to live close to Hopkins, is what he said. Is that where you are? You said you're in Hopkins?
Yep. Yeah, we're in Hopkins.
Yeah, he said he used to live in Hopkins too. Right on, man. So, what are you looking forward to in the future?
Well, we're looking forward to, really just getting our product out there, working with more and more manufacturers, getting Berd Spokes on as many bikes and wheels as possible. We're super excited about some of these new partnerships that we have going right now. We've Atomic Carbon in Florida. They've been building with our spokes now for about a year, and we just started a new partnership with Head and Onyx here in Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty cool on the fat biking side of things, which again I know isn't super popular anywhere except for the Midwest, but
I'll tell you, I see them around, man. Like honestly, like you would be surprised. Like even today, I saw somebody riding a fat bike. Like I don't know, like it's probably a lot more popular there. You know what I mean? But it's definitely like they're selling all over the place. So
yeah. But that is really cool, and I think there's going to be more and more of those that you're going to see coming out this year, where you're going to see Berd working with some of these other big wheel companies.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So how are you guys working on getting the word out then? Just like by making partnerships with these other brands, or is like some kind of marketing, or like sponsoring some people, or like what's your plan that way?
Yeah, well, lately we've been growing pretty fast that we've not even wanted to try to grow too fast, just because so that our manufacturing and our company can keep up. But a lot of it at this point, honestly, a lot of it tends to be word of mouth, and our returning customers. We've got our monthly emails that we send out to people who signed up to our email list, and we've got our Berd Instagram, Berd Facebook. But honestly, a lot of it is at this point word of mouth. People going into a bike shop. The bike shop maybe never heard of Berd before. They give us a call, they get set up, and then now people start going into the shop and maybe seeing our wheels hanging up.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to talk about once you see it. Like once you see like the spaghetti mess in a hub, you're like, what is that? And then if you're talking to somebody like Richard, for those of you guys that don't know, the guy that showed me these wheels originally is Richard from Stickered. I was riding with him down in UC Santa Cruz, of course, on all the legitimate trails, and or the legitimate trail, whatever it is. He's a big dude.
legitimate trails.
Yeah. He's a big dude though. I mean, Richard's not a small guy. Like he's easily a 250, 260 guy as well. And and not only like is he a big dude, like he's a pretty damn aggressive rider. Like I'll see him hit some big drops, and like he's definitely putting his wheels through some abuse, right? You know, anytime you put a big guy like us on a bike, like we're putting some tension on there that's not typical to everybody else, right? And I was really impressed with everything that he had to say. I mean, he had nothing negative to say at all. And usually Richard's good at coming up with some negative shit. No. But no, like joking aside, like it definitely, you know, it sounds very intriguing, you know, and I can see how it's going to continue, you know, taking off that way.
Now, my question is, you know, so Richard, he makes a living making stickers for bikes, right? Did he have some big bird stickers that he had made and put on his wheels?
I don't remember. You know, actually, the thumbnail that I used for this picture is the thumbnail for the video. I don't know what I just said a second ago, but it was.
Those are his wheels.
Yeah, those are his wheels, and I'm trying to think. He probably has the name of the carbon, or is that Berd wheels altogether?
Well, no, those are Envy wheels that we built for him.
Oh, you laced them up, okay?
We rebuilt his Envy wheels. I'm kind of joking because but you know, if Richard sees this, I think we should be sure to ask him to, you know, make his own Berd logos bigger than he's ever made for any wheel before, because
he definitely needs to do that. I've seen him make some pretty cool ones. Actually, now that I think about it, he does have Envy stickers on there because he did something where like the last E on the Envy like goes all the way over to like next E on the Envy. So
it goes about halfway around the wheel. Yeah.
No, and it's eye catching. It's that bike is a pretty damn sick bike to look at. And I mean, between the wheels, the decals, and then he's got that trussed fork on there too. That thing is just like silly to look at, but he's in love with that thing. So I've only ridden it around like the neighborhood, and that fork is like really, it's interesting because like when you're pedaling, it feels like you're on a rigid fork, you know, like it doesn't have the bob that you're used to, but then you run it into a curb and it's like, it works, you know, it's like really like kind of like when I was talking about the handlebars with the gravel bike earlier, it's like, it just kind of messes with your head.
Yeah.
I think you have to learn how to ride it a little differently too, because like I tried to like bunny hop and it was like the preloading, like I was expecting the preload the fork, but because it's like when you're pushing down on it, it's not compressing, you know what I mean? It's compressing when it's being pushed backwards, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's like I just remember when I went to like hop, I was like, oh, that didn't feel the way I expected it to. Like you had to kind of like retrain yourself on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right on, man. What kind of things what's like one of the most normal questions that you get about your spokes when you're explaining them to people?
You know, some of your questions, you know, how does a flexible spoke work in a wheel if it's flexible? You know, that's always a great question. When people ask more about the physics of wheels, how wheels actually work, and I think it's pretty neat. You know, and I can go into my engineering explanation of how a wheel works, you know, which I think is pretty neat. And,
yeah, let's hear it, man.
And you know, when you've got a wheel that's in tension and all the spokes are in tension, and you're riding your wheel, you know, you might think that you're hanging from your spokes, right? You've got your hub sitting in the center of the spokes. It's just hanging from the rim, you know, and the top spokes are supporting it. But what's kind of cool, I think, is that you're actually not hanging from your spokes. You're standing on your spokes, which is really neat and sort of counterintuitive. You know, once they're in tension, you're standing on your bottom spokes when you're riding the wheel.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense.
So it does act like you know, you think of an old wooden wagon wheel. It actually acts like that, where the spoke that's on the bottom, that spoke is getting compressed. But since it's already in tension, you can compress it and it doesn't go out of tension. And so what that actually means is if you sit on your bike and you measure the tension of the spokes on the bottom of the wheel, those spokes will have a little bit lower tension than all the rest of the spokes in the wheel because you're standing on them and your weight is being supported by those spokes on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting to think about that way. I actually probably would have never thought about that in my entire life if you didn't explain it. But once you did, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah.
But the biggest thing that people, I mean, we talk a lot about the weight, right? But the biggest thing people care about is the vibration damping. And there's a lot of people in the bike industry making things now that are more comfortable, that make it so that you can go out and ride 250 miles on gravel and you don't just shake your arms off, and you don't just have that feeling for the rest of the day of, have being beaten up by a bumpy road.
Yeah, totally. Like using the freaking like Sawzall for like 3 hours, and then the rest of the day it feels like your arms is still vibrating.
Yeah. So we have customers who give us a call. A customer called not long ago who has arthritis in his hands, and he's riding our Berd wheels, and he just says, it's just unbelievable how different it is, because I've got arthritis in my hands, and I can only ride so far before I can't hold on to the handlebars before hold on to the handlebars anymore. And that's the big thing I think that a lot of people ask about now, especially maybe people who are a little bit older, but still want to ride their bike as much as possible.
Would there be any difference in using these on like a e-bike wheel compared to a regular wheel, or?
Well, a lot of times e-bikes are made with even thicker gauge spokes than are on normal bikes. So we don't produce anything right now for an e-bike because we only make 14 gauge spokes. We don't make something that's stronger than substantially stronger than a normal steel spoke. But you'll if you're on an e-mountain bike, and you're racing, and you want a faster bike, well, heck yeah, you should get lighter wheels. You're going to be able to accelerate faster. But I think at this point, most of those wheels are designed with thicker spokes. So we're just, we're not doing anything with e-bikes yet.
Yeah, I have no idea. I just kind of came to mind because there's definitely a big e-bike market happening. I would imagine you guys have probably seen a bunch of them back there where you're at as well.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
You always know as an e-bike when you look at the person and say, should you really be passing? Does it look like you're pedaling hard enough to pass me on this trail?
Yeah, the worst is whenever I'm like, oh man, I'm killing this climb, dude. I'm like freaking PR this climb. This is gonna be awesome. And then some dude goes by and is like doing bump jumps on some rock next to you on his way up the hill, and you're like, what the hell, man?
They probably have a motor if they're doing that,
right? I talked to this dude the other day.
Just hope they have a motor so that it doesn't make you look bad.
Right? Yeah. I need to just get maybe I just get a little speaker on my bike that makes that whine, and then people will be like, oh man, this guy's really slow. So yeah, that's really interesting. Are you guys thinking about something else on the bike, or?
We're still pretty focused on spokes and wheels. There's I think there's a big opportunity to really get our product out there and and getting a lot of people to use our spokes, and so we're pretty focused on that for now. And even though there may be other opportunities on the bike, we're kind of sticking with spokes and wheels at this point.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't feel like it's a bad spot to be. I mean, you can't ride a bike without wheels, so they're not going anywhere for at least any time in the near future. So
yeah.
What would you like to see happen, in the next couple of years then?
Well, I think we'd like to see our company continue to grow, continue to have more partnerships with wheel manufacturers, and really see our product hanging up in all the bike shops across the country.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's exciting, man. I'm really stoked that we had the opportunity to talk. Is there anything else that you feel like that I should have asked you?
I don't know. I can't think of anything right now. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's always like 10 minutes from now. You're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. That's yeah. I am really excited to like see where it goes, to tell you the truth, man, because there's certain products that when you talk to somebody about them, it just really makes sense. And I feel like this is one of those, like it makes sense. I really like the idea of what you said earlier too, about you could get another hoop and you don't need to buy new spokes, like you can just put them on there. I mean, as long as you're riding that bike, I mean, you could break that rim and it doesn't matter. And I would imagine, like me or like other people nowadays, it's like you buy a really nice set of wheels, and maybe when you get rid of that bike, you buy some crappy wheels and put on it, or you just sell the bike without the wheels. You take your wheels with you to your next bike. At least, that's my plan most of the time.
Yeah. Well, the other cool thing is that a fairly easy way to get started with Berd Spokes is to take your existing wheel, re-spoke it with Berd Spokes, and you have a wheel that's better than your wheel was brand new, right? But it only costs you a third that it would cost to buy a brand new set of wheels. And then
that's a good point. Yeah.
Then when you are ready for a brand new set of wheels, then then you can do that too.
Right. Yeah. So what would a set of the spokes cost, like if you were doing a project like that?
Well, if we have that available on our website. We have, it's called Berd Wheel Rebuilding. And so it's $500 to $600 depending on how many spokes you have on your wheels to revamp them with the best spokes in the world.
But then you would, at that point, you'd be dropping, maybe a half a pound of weight, which is really going to make a difference on, like, because that's affecting your rotational.
Yeah. So it'd be like taking, double or triple that weight off anywhere else on your bike.
Could you explain rotational speed to people? Or is that maybe not too deep? Or is that too deep?
Well, when you're trying to get going, you've got inertia. And so if you've got inertia, comes in multiple forms. You've got both rotational inertia, which is on your wheels, and then you've got translational inertia, which is just moving horizontally across the ground. And so that inertia, if you add up both of those things, so on the wheels you have to move them translationally, but also rotationally. So you add both of those things up to get them going, and that's why it takes more effort to move your wheels than it does to move your frame, because in that case you only have that translational component.
Yeah, totally. Same thing with the 29ers. That's a little bit more mass to move around too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You said earlier you're a 29er guy, huh?
Yeah. Does that put me into a special category?
I don't know, man. Everybody has their own thing. It's like religion with bikes, isn't it? People get all like excited about it. I guess I probably like ruffled a few feathers with my aluminum versus carbon conversation we had earlier. So
yeah.
Are you an aluminum believer still, or?
Well, so I've got the new Otto Wojtek. I told you about that fat bike, and so that's a carbon fat bike, which is amazing, and it's considerably lighter than my aluminum hardtail that I'm still riding. So
is your fat bike full suspension, or is it hardtail?
No, it's rigid. Yeah,
it's rigid. Okay.
Yeah.
Like totally rigid, so not even a fork then, huh?
Yep. Yeah, and when you're riding in the snow, you don't need the suspension so much. You've got some suspension in that fat bike tire as well.
Yeah, there's definitely some squish in there, that's for sure. How big are those wheels? I don't even know.
Well, I'm riding 26-inch wheels.
But
they end up being bigger than that because of the tires. And
so it's like a 5.0 or something like that, or like how big is the tire?
It's a 4-inch tire that I'm riding.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That guy I was talking about earlier, that friend of mine that he has like a couple of fat bikes, and he just bought a full suspension one. So I don't know what the hell he's doing, but he has a place up in Tahoe, and he's probably boosting some crazy stuff or something. I don't know, but
yeah, I can put a fork, different front fork for the summer on this bike as well, and then I can, it makes it a little bit more versatile. I could put a set of mountain bike wheels on the Wojtek and ride it summer, and it'd be a much lighter bike than my aluminum hardtail.
Yeah.
And that bike is 10 years old, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I hear you there for sure. This guy, John A, says, "What does Charlie think of tire inserts?" So since you're a wheel guy,
yeah. Well, we've got some customers who ride them, and I hear great things about them. But honestly, I've never ridden them myself because of my, the ancient technology that's in my mountain bike. But I've only heard good things about them. So
yeah, I can definitely say that I didn't really have a lot of belief in them, whenever people were talking about it when they first came out. And then I talked to Cushcore, and they definitely piqued my interest, and I was like still hesitant because it's like the install process at the time, where like everybody, when they were doing it when they first came out, was like having a hell of a time getting them on. So I was like, oh man, I don't know if I want to go through this, but I put them on my bike, and I'll preface this by saying, once again, that I'm a big guy, right? So like, as soon as I put them on my bike, I could tell my cornering was like way better. And the one thing that when I talked to those guys, that the main head engineer guy would reiterate over and over again, is that they're not a tire protection device. They're a suspension device, so the tire protection or the rim protection is like an added bonus, but like that's not what they made them for, like they made them so that you feel like you have more suspension. You're getting more suspension. It's dampening in your tire, like you can run lower pressures and it'll keep that sidewall stiff. And, when I talked to them, that was another one of those products where it's like, when you talk to them, you're like, no, this makes sense. What you're saying, it totally makes sense. The only downside is, you're putting more weight in your wheel.
What pressure do you ride?
I ride probably around 27 in my wheels, but so I'm probably still riding them a little bit firmer than I could be.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like paranoid. You know what I mean? Like I used to run my pressures like really high for a long time, especially with tubes back in the day, like ridiculous high. But I will say that I got a new set of NV wheels, the M70s. I think that's the right number. 735s or something. Yeah, 735, because they do the inner, I think, in their model name, like you guys. And they have this new rim strip on it that is supposed to like help against tire puncture. Yeah. And also I think because the tire being wider, it really changes the way that the tire is reacting. And when I talked to Envy, they were like, you might not want the Cushcore in there. This could change it for you. And so far I've been riding this thing. I put a shit ton of miles on these wheels, and they've been really good even without the Cushcore. So I've been curious lately. I've been thinking to myself that I wanted to peel the tires off and put Cushcore in and see like if it made as much of a difference to me now as it did before. And I think one of the reasons that before it made a huge difference was because I had an older Envy set of wheels on that bike that had like I think it was like a 26 or a 27 like inner diameter or inner width. And because of that and running the bigger tires, my tires were kind of ballooned on the wheel, and the Cushcore made a big difference in stiffening that up, so it didn't roll as the same. But with these being such wider rims, I think that's why I'm not feeling it the way that I did before.
Right. Yeah.
Because in preparation for these new wheels, I took my cush core out of those old wheels, and I also was getting ready to sell that bike. And I rode it for like a couple of weeks without the cush core in. And like as soon as I took it out, I was like, I can't stand this. Like they were like super bouncy and just like it was like noticeably that I was not impressed. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
when I got these wheels built, I wanted to give Envy, you know, their fair shake and give it a shot to see what my perspective was. And I can't say that I'm missing my cush core right now. And I can also say that whatever that rim strip magic is that they put on there, I have definitely heard that, you know, that knock that you hear when you slam your friggin' wheel into a rock and you're like, that's going to be a snake bite. You know what I mean? I've heard that a bunch of times and I haven't got the snake bite yet.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But they have this weird, like rubbery plastic, like sleeve kind of thing that goes over the rim before you put your tire on.
Yeah.
And then I guess like the fins of the rim itself are a little fatter so that they're not as like a knife edge where like other rims are.
Right.
So that is what I'm assuming. That's like basically the technology that's supposed to be keeping it from puncturing. And
right. The
ahead.
wide hookless bead that Envy does, you know, really, it spreads out the pressure when your rim hits a rock. Right.
Yeah.
So you don't have a lot of pressure on one spot on the rim to put pressure on it. But right, that on your rims, that's covered up by the and I don't remember what they call it, but the piece of plastic that goes around it.
Yeah, the little rim strip thing that they have. The only thing I could say about that is it was kind of a pain to get my wheels on over that and then get that thing like in place right. And I probably should have went to their website and watched one of their videos. They probably show you some like super slick way to do it, but instead I'm like in my buddy's shop. It's like 11 o'clock at night. You know, we've already had freaking 6 or 7 beers and we're like, all right, let's put these wheels together. You know, so I probably skipped some like crucial step, like first spray it with soapy water, or, you know what I mean? Like I was like, yeah, whatever, but just put this thing on there, you know? So that was my only complaint with like putting them on. Like, and I'm kind of curious to like, once you take them off, like, you know, how that whole process goes. But I think the only thing that I can say is that with cush core, every time I did it, it just got easier and easier. And at this point, like when I put it on cush core for my wheels or my buddy's wheels, like it's only a couple of minutes more than what it would take me to put a regular wheel on. It's really like no difference. It's kind of like you just have to learn the way to like finesse it right. And you're like, oh, this is actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
But that first time you're doing it, you're like, I want to punch baby Jesus right in the face. You know, like it's definitely not a fun process. But so that's why I'm assuming the same thing's going to happen with this rim strip thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you think you guys have any kind of like ideas or things in that nature that you want to do with your wheels, or?
I would say the simple answer, no.
Not right now, yeah.
Yeah, not at the moment. We are, you know, in terms of the rims design, you know, we're sort of following what other people are doing, you know, looking at, you know, going a little bit wider with our rims.
Mm-hmm.
Although we're not doing a protective rim strip like is. All of our products we like to keep very lightweight, you know, to stick with our spokes, and you know, we've had good luck so far with our rims. You know, we don't have any
I want to say when I looked at the profile of the rim on the website that it had like an offset spoke kind of design to it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, right. So we're building with asymmetric. Our rims are asymmetric.
Yeah, that's the word.
And the benefit of asymmetric rims is that the tensions of the spokes are more even on each side, because you know, when you've got your front disc brake or your rear drive, that side of the hub isn't as wide as the other side of the hub, and so those spokes are going to be at higher tensions because of the steeper angle that they come down to the hub. And by having that offset rim, you always put the offset away from the drive on the rear, and you put it away from the disc side in the front, and that gives you more even tensions and and builds it so builds a little bit better wheel because it has a little bit higher tensions on the low tension side of the wheel.
Why are the flanges not the same on the hub? I thought they would be. I thought they are the same. They're not?
Well, on a rear hub, right, you've got
I'm trying to look at this one over there. I can't really tell from
here. So you've got your free hub body, and that free hub body, is about 1.5 inches long, right? And on the other side of the hub, you just have the disc brake. And
I was looking at this hub that I have here in my hand, though. This is a front hub, so
yeah. Well, so the front hub, that's a good example too, right? So yeah, you look at that hub. Now you're holding that hub like that, but the rim is going to be perfectly centered on the hub, right? So the rim is going to be perfectly centered. So the distance from the hub flange to where the center of the rim is on the disc brake side is going to be less than on the non-disc brake side, because that disc is there, pushing that hub flange over. But when you pair that with an offset rim, you get it so it's a lot more even. Low tensions.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And that's what most manufacturers are moving that way. So for example, we've been talking about Envy's brand new rims. They're more value.
Stands are asymmetric as well too, if I remember correctly, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that their older aluminum rims are not asymmetric, but
no, they weren't. I think their new carbon ones are, though, because I remember that was one of I want to say it was one of the first ones, at least that I saw, that kind of had that funky. Yeah. Like, it just looks odd, like it looks not odd. It just looks different than what you're used to seeing. And I remember when it first came out, I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and like Specialized, their newest rims are now asymmetric as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you have I know I've seen also a bunch of the different wheel companies going with these, like, I don't know how to explain it. You probably, being a materials guy, you probably will be able to correct me right away, but it's like kind of like a polymer carbon instead of a pure carbon fiber. It's like carbon and mixed with something else in a bowl. You know what I'm talking about?
Not really, I would say.
Kind of like it's like it's maybe somebody in the chat can fill me in here real quick and help me out, and maybe with one of the brands or something like that. But basically, it's like a hybrid carbon that they're using, so it has a little more flex to it. It's not as rigid as carbon is.
Yeah, I've seen at least one company making a thermoplastic rim, where it's recyclable. You could take that material and you could melt it back down. You could make a new rim out of it. Different, than the normal carbon fiber, which is, carbon fiber rim is a mixture of fibers themselves and epoxy.
I'm gonna try to pull it. Keep going about that for a second. I'm gonna try to pull it up. I just remember I know Rebel Bikes has just brought out some rims as well, and let's see if I can just get a little chatty here while I try to pull up their website and see what this thing says it's made out of. They're claiming on their website that they're also talking to some bike nerds. Maybe they're talking to you guys, right?
Yeah, well, fortunately, whenever someone says they're talking to bike nerds, no, they could mean Berd. So
yeah, it's something to do with the epoxy. So they're saying there's no environmentally harmful or brittle epoxy in this carbon, and it's high performance composite polymer that makes it significantly more durable, lighter, and better riding.
Yeah. So they're talking about the, of those two components. They're not talking about the carbon fibers themselves, right? Which are doing the majority of the work. They're talking about the matrix that holds it all together. And there's certainly different options for that. Yeah. Whereas the carbon fiber, most people are using essentially the same thing.
Yeah. So they're using a different kind of glue for the carbon fiber, like to make it simple to say.
Yeah.
And so it's that glue and my understanding too is they're using it so that they can make it, and this is funny, so that they can make it a little more flexible, so it's closer to an aluminum ride. So, and I guess that would probably have to do with some of the dampening as well.
Yeah, well, carbon fiber can, it's lighter, but then it can end up being more of a harsh ride.
Yeah.
And it's the same type of thing that our spokes overcome, right? Is it takes and again, makes the wheel even lighter, but now it takes away some of that harshness that carbon fiber brings with wheels.
Yeah. I'm definitely interested. I'm like, okay, do I want to try this on my mountain bike or do I want to try this on my gravel bike? I feel like I would feel it, like my monkey brain says, well, do it on the gravel bike because that would make way more sense. You're definitely going to feel that. But listening to what Richard said about his wheels as he's riding his bike, I'm like, well, man, he made it sound like it was just sweet on the mountain bike too. So you're talking me into a couple sets of wheels at this point, right?
Yeah, well, whatever you need, just let me know. But on the mountain bike side, a lot of people say that they get better tracking with our spokes, through rocky, rooty sections than you would with steel spokes.
What do you attribute that to?
Having a little bit more flex, and I think the vibration damping, just helps so that you're getting more of an even pedal stroke throughout the rocks versus just getting small bits of pedal stroke at a time.
So do the wheels that's actually a good question that I'm thinking of then. So because your wheel could be you could be flexing the wheel through something funky, and wouldn't that be making, I guess the same things happen on steel spokes then. It's but since it's not rigid, does that make the hub a little more washy feeling or anything like that? Or
it's essentially, the stiffness, when people typically talk about the stiffness, they say that they feel the same. They feel stiff wheels, and so it's not it's not that they're real wishy-washy or bending back. I think the other part too of it is it's a little bit less stiffness, and you feel that a little bit in the just in the pedal stroke, and so I think that really helps to get a more even pedal stroke by just having a little bit less stiffness on the rear wheel when you're tracking through really bumpy things where you might be on and off the pedals.
But that's probably what more people are just calling the dampening feeling that they're having then. So it's just kind of taking away some of the harshness then.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, definitely. Is the company where you thought it would be 5 years ago when you guys started? Or you think you're doing better? You think you guys are on track with what your thought process was? Or
we are actually right on track with about 3.5 years ago. We came up with a plan where we wanted this company to be our goals for this, and we're actually right on track for that right now. So I think I myself am super happy with it, and it's a super fun place to work. And if anyone down the road is looking for, living in Minnesota, looking for a fun place to work, I'd say we've got a great group of people here. So
I think it's got to be definitely really rewarding to have something that you guys essentially invented, and then watching it grow. That has to just in my eyes that has to feel good.
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome.
Yeah. I recently made some here. I'll show you. I actually probably have one in my wallet. I made these bottle openers. I'm going to compare this to all the engineering that you did, but I came up with this design for this credit card, bottle opener and just made it and reached out to some place in China to have them manufacture it. And, it's this idea that I had for some swag, and now I'm holding this physical thing in my hand and selling it to people, and I don't know, it's really rewarding. To come up
and empowering, that you do your own thing. That's certainly a big part of it for me, and why I love this company so much. And the other thing is, being a small company gives you a lot of ability to do things that a big company couldn't.
Super flexible.
To develop something new, to to have down to having great customer service.
Mhm.
Somebody calls and needs something, we're pretty flexible in making our customers happy and making new products. So it's pretty great.
Where do you guys get the string from? Is that because obviously that's not manufactured? That comes from China or something like that too, or it's China string?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't come from China. I can't tell you where it comes from,
Okay.
because that's another one of our things that's proprietary. But no, it is a very amazing material that we use, and we work with suppliers that help us with various aspects of our product.
Yeah, I understand that. So did you guys was it like you saw this material and you knew that's where you wanted to go right away, or was it like you thought like, hey, I think we can fix these spokes, and then you went through like a bunch of materials to get to the one that you're at?
No, it's more of the material. The material is amazing material. How can we make this work for our spokes? And so the iterations were in the designs of how do we make that bond between the steel and the braided fiber so it can interface with standard components. And that's
so you guys found the material first, and then from the material you were like, so did you know you wanted to do wheels at that point, or you're just like found the material and you're like, hey, this could be a spoke?
We at that point it was just spokes, so it was let's start with spokes, and of course that's still our focus. We're a spoke company, but now we're really growing into wheels too, and doing a great job with that as well. But definitely started at spokes.
Which one of you three was the ones that like came up with the idea first? How'd that happen?
Well, it's kind of a funny story because myself and another of the co-founders, Kyle, Kyle has lots of great ideas, and he said, I've got this great idea. Let's do it like this. And I said, Kyle, that's amazing. That's it. We got it. But actually, he was talking about something else, and I just interpreted it the wrong way. And so, so I don't know who you can say came up with the idea, but somehow between Kyle and I, we came up with this design for the the Chinese finger trap. Is what we call it, and that's what our patent is on. Is that
and so you guys went to school for the same stuff then?
No, the three founders we all have different degrees. I'm a chemical engineer. Kyle is actually an electrical engineer, and Brad, the third co-founder, is a mechanical engineer.
So I'm still stuck on how you came across this material then. So like either like you were like down in Roswell, New Mexico, you ran into a freaking UFO, gutted that thing.
Well, the material is used in it's used like in webbing for rock climbing. This ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. It's used.
You gotta hear that one more time. Somebody asked earlier, what's the material? What was it?
It's ultra high molecular weight polyethylene.
I love it.
So now that we're an hour and a half into this thing, I can give you I'll give you the chemical details on this for those diehards that are still watching. But so it's the same chemical composition as polyethylene. So it's the same thing as a plastic grocery bag, right?
Oh wow.
So those wimpy little plastic grocery bags. But the difference is, so your question is what is polyethylene? Well, it's just a long strand of carbon atoms and these long molecules, super long. So it's just carbon atoms all joined together in this long molecule. But in regular polyethylene, the molecules are just kind of randomly oriented, like a plate of spaghetti, right? Where they're all just, every which way. And it's not very strong in that way. You pull on it and they just pull apart from each other.
Yeah.
But in ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, first of all, these spaghetti strands are super long, right? They might have 60,000 or more, these atoms all together in one chain. but then all of the chains are all going exactly the same direction, and so they're all right next to each other. So instead of them being randomly oriented, they're all oriented straight along the length of the fibers. So when you pull on the fibers, what you're pulling right along the length of these chains, you're pulling right on these carbon-carbon bonds between the atoms. And when you do that, it has the strength of diamond. So that diamond is
so
also.
You have, now I'm helping you with your marketing. You have carbon diamond spokes. If you buy
carbon diamond spokes, yeah. When you pull on them that way, they have the strength. You're actually pulling on the chains in that direction. They have the strength of diamond, and they don't pull apart from each other. Like, normal, like, the spaghetti, normal polyethylene pulls apart from each other because the chains are randomly oriented, but they don't pull apart from each other because of something called van der Waals forces. They're all stuck together. It's kind of like, it's like static electricity, but since they're so long, it's kind of a weak force, but they're so long and they're stuck together for the entire length that then they don't pull apart and stretch out.
So you nailed it, dude.
There you go.
Somebody shortened it way up and they said directional plastic spider web.
Yeah.
So there is actually another good one over here. They said, will sun affect them over time? That's a great question.
So for the same reason because the material is polyethylene, I'm going to go into the scientific explanation again.
Yeah, no, it sounds good to me, dude.
Just for those diehards, but because it's just polyethylene, it's not affected by UV light, and the sun doesn't affect it. So that's different from other ropes that people might have, like nylon, for example, or like a Kevlar rope that you make bulletproof vests out of, Vectran. It's different from those because they have things called chromophores, things that are affected by UV light that'll actually absorb UV light and then cause the molecule to break down. Polyethylene doesn't have any of that, and so it doesn't break down when exposed to UV light. And this material is actually used to pull oil tankers, sitting out in the ocean for all day, every day for years. And so it's that's what's really special about this material, different than like PBO that Spinergy built with a long time ago, and different from Vectran. It doesn't break down. It doesn't require any coating or anything.
So it really doesn't like fatigue then over time either.
Yeah. Time doesn't cause it to fatigue. Yeah.
So what does cause it to fatigue? Anything?
I mean, only when you really exceed the strength of it. That's the cool thing about polymers like this, is that they the fatigue life is really good, all the way up to almost the breaking strength of them. And that's different from metals, because metals, like aluminum and steel, when you start to get close to where it would break, it'll start to fatigue. It'll start having deformation. But polymers like that are used like in our spokes, you can get all the way up to where it'll almost break before you really start doing any damage to it.
That's crazy. That it really, really is. It's just super interesting though, as well. It's like kind of makes your brain hurt a little bit when you're a layman, That's
my goal, just to try to make your brain hurt.
No, but that's good though. I mean, I like that kind of stuff. It definitely is like, I think that's what makes it interesting. It's interesting that, that they're not rigid, that it doesn't fatigue like that. And I think that it's definitely a lot to think about. That's really cool how you guys came up with it though. That's for sure. Oh, I wanted to ask this too. So you said earlier that, it's basically a bunch of strands that are in each spoke that are all weaved together. So in my mind, I'm thinking of like a 550 cord kind of thing, where it's like a shell and a bunch of strings inside all braided together. Do you know how many of those like fibers are in each one of those spokes by chance?
I should know what that is, because it's a pretty well-defined number, but it's not, there's not a core like you talked about. So there's not two ropes. There's not like an outer shell and then strands down the middle.
Yeah.
What it is, it's 12 strands braided together. And so it's a 12-strand braid. And each of those 12, what I call them, they're actually called toes. So each of those 12 things is actually, one toe. And then inside of those, there's like 1,000 fibers inside of each of those.
Wow.
So I should really, know that number, and I'm not going to count them, but I can calculate.
You could figure it out pretty quick is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
I'm sure your math skills are on point compared to mine, I would imagine. When I first went to school or to college, I wanted to be in like computer science, and I had to take all these math classes, and I got to this like calculus class, and calculus was whenever I was like, you know what? I don't think I like this anymore. That was enough for me.
Yeah.
I also had this calculus teacher that was like his second week in America from China, and I could not understand what he was saying at all. Like much more than like high at the beginning of the class, I would just sit there and like kind of look at the pictures that he was drawing and try to make sense of it, right? And then I was like, man, that's it. I'm going to find another calculus class. And the other calculus class was some Russian dude that everybody said had a really bad accent as well. So I was like, well, I guess I'm stuck here. And that dude, he set us up for failure once. He's like, you guys want to take home tests for the final? Or I don't even think it was a final. It's just a take home test. Everybody, college students like, yeah. He gave us 4 questions. And I spent 12 hours in the math lab with other math teachers that were running the math lab, trying to figure out those 4 questions. And some of the other teachers couldn't even answer it. So that guy was like, he wanted everybody to fail at like a 50% and then grade on that. Whoever was closest to utterly failing is the one that's going to pass.
Yeah, it's a good way to separate people, when you have a test like that, but it's definitely not a morale booster.
No, it was fun though. I mean, honestly, like there was a point in my college career where I considered going into math more, but that's just like the joking side of me is like calculus was like, I'm over it. I'm just going to go play guitar, try to get famous. That didn't work out either. So it's also a good story. So let's see here. I'm just trying to weed through these questions, and I'm seeing come up in the chat. Most of them are things that you guys could get answered if you go back to the beginning of the podcast and listen from the beginning. So I'm gonna let you guys go with that. So, anyways, see, dude, we're almost 2 hours, man. I told you beforehand.
Yeah,
it happens. It's just easy to do.
Time flies when you're talking to Robert.
Huh? Yeah, right. I don't know. I just got the gift of gab. You're like, God, would this dude just shut up already? So I always like to ask people, do you watch YouTube? I don't know. I mean, usually I'm talking to a bunch of other YouTubers. So are you a YouTube guy?
No, I have no time for anything but working and spending time with my kids and exercising. So those are like the 3 things that or I suppose sleeping. I should put that in there.
Yeah, that's probably one of them too. How many kids do you have?
I have 2.
Are they young still?
Yeah, 2-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Oh man, you got your hands full, dude.
You
probably don't have a whole lot of time for the exercise part then either. Unless
I try to, I'll do that at lunchtime at work.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Dude, I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm going to tell everybody that if you want carbon diamond spokes, that you need to talk to those guys over at Berd, because you're going to bring out your bike something fierce with those things.
Yeah, just let me know. We'll get a new trademark on whatever you decide.
Just whatever I decide.
Yeah.
That's funny. Do you think that the trademark and the process for patent is really important in your line of what you're doing right there? Go for it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, what we're doing is we've developed a product that is, I would say fairly easy to reverse engineer. You can see it. You can see what it is. But it relies on something super critical, and that's that bond. And so for us, having that patent is super, is really important.
Yeah.
That it adds a lot of value to to our company.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense in what you're saying there, because it's like something that you're like tangibly holding and could take apart to figure out how it works. The company, like I said earlier, the company I work for, they make ROVs, robots for the bottom of the ocean. And the founder of the company, he like didn't believe in patents at all, but his process was different, because he was like, by the time somebody figures out and recreates what we've done, we're already moving on to something else. Like, so yeah, go for it. You're going to be reverse engineering like a 10-year-old product, so like, to him, it wasn't worth the time or the money. But I can understand what you're saying, because essentially, like, the old spokes that we were talking about, if you guys have those ghetto steel spokes, those things have been around for what? You said 100 years or something. So
yeah.
You don't need a new business plan for at least another 100 years.
There you go. Yeah. And if I'm still doing this in 100 years, then, well, who knows what's going on. So.
Right. Would it matter, like, as far, I guess it probably wouldn't matter, but like, what about if like wheels went to a bigger diameter? Like, say we start riding like 32s next year. That's like the next new thing from Specialized or something like that.
Yeah, well, I can make you spokes for that. Yeah,
so it would still be like it doesn't matter on the length or whatever. So
yeah,
that's probably a pretty simple question there, but nonetheless, man, honestly, I seriously had a great time chatting. I don't know if there's anything else that you feel like you'd like to express to people before we wrap it up, but
no, I think you did a great job. You had a lot of great questions. So yeah, it was great talking to you, Robert.
Right on, man. I really, really did appreciate having you on here. And for all you guys that hung out, man, that was very informative. You guys should definitely check out their website. It's in the show more of the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening on podcast, it should be in the podcast notes as well. I put a link to their website and a link to their YouTube channel. And you said on your YouTube channel, that's where you have those compression test videos and stuff like that, or
no, that's on our Instagram. So
that's on your Instagram. Yeah. Okay. Like in a story or something like that. Or just
we got those on our page. So yeah, there's a couple videos on there. That's the best place for cool bird content, and our YouTube is more of our informational,
like how to kind of stuff.
Yep.
Right on, man. That totally makes sense, man. So once again, I appreciate you coming on here and chatting with me. All you guys out there, please do me a favor. Swing by their site, check that out. Also, swing by my Instagram or my Facebook page and maybe give that a follow, because I'm trying to grow that too. And like I said, for all you sponsors out there from Patreon, I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing for me and keeping the podcast as well as the biker channel at POV channel up and going. You guys are definitely like helping out a lot, and I appreciate that. Any of you guys that want to jump in on that, just go ahead and swing by patreon.biker.com or patreon.com and just search biker. You know how to spell it. If you don't, you can probably figure it out. Anyways, I really appreciate all of you guys out there. And of course, I want you guys all to remember one thing and one thing only. It only takes a bike to be a bike. So get out and be one.